Hello, a very good evening. Welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
And here are tonight's main stories.
I don't know what's exploding, but that's bad.
Residents ordered to stay indoors and roads closed after a huge fire causes explosions at a factory in Leeds.
Yeah, we're just in house and just heard this almighty bang and I thought, my God, what's that? You know, dashed out and just saw this plume of black smoke.
Yes, there's been major disruption here today, not only for residents but also for traffic. I'll be here with all the latest on the situation shortly.
Also on tonight's programme, in the market for votes after their MP follows Boris Johnson in resigning his seat, the people of Selby gear up for a crucial by-election.
Yeah, the country's in a state, innit? Right state at the moment. Don't matter who's in power or whatever, they don't seem to be bucking down and getting on with the job that they're being told to get, what we've been given to do.
Things are set to hot up here in Selby as this safe Conservative seat becomes a target for Labour.
Chuffed to bits, the King visits North Yorkshire to celebrate 100 years of the Flying Scotsman.
And join me later in the programme to find out why I'm in a Spitfire flying over York ahead of the first new air show in the north of England for decades.
But first tonight, investigators are looking into whether the hot weather could have caused a series of explosions at a factory in Leeds.
More than 40 firefighters tackled a blaze at a company which creates fiberglass products near Pudsey. The factory was evacuated this morning as more than 100 workers watched on as cars and tyres exploded.
Nearby roads also had to close, causing traffic chaos. Helen Steele reports.
I don't know what's exploding, but that's bad.
Late morning and workers at a fiberglass factory in Leeds watch on as a fire threatens to engulf their workplace. The effects were felt further down the street too.
Yeah, we're just in house and just heard this almighty bang and I thought, my God, what's that? You know, dashed out and just saw this plume of black smoke just over there. And then there's just the emergency service. But yeah, it were, you know, a bit scary really.
We evacuated the house. We've been round with the neighbour for the last hour and a half. Streets being cut off, everything's been cut off.
West Yorkshire Fire Service says the incident was scaled up on arrival, with 40 firefighters in total and police and ambulances drafted in too. Officers say they can't rule out the hot weather as a cause of the blaze, which remained outside, causing a black cloud which could be seen as far as Harrogate, 20 miles away.
It's the products of combustion, usually with a fire that we've seen behind us here. It's the plastics that have burnt off. There were several barrels and cylinders outside, and also the toxic smoke coming from cars, tyres exploding, so it was quite a hazardous scene.
But after the dramatic action came the waiting. Major roads were shut, including Swinnow Lane, a thoroughfare for deliveries.
All the lorry drivers are parked up. Obviously, the thing is we've got to pick up deliveries and do our run, so there's a bit of a backlog. I don't think we're going to be moving anytime soon.
By late afternoon, major bus routes had returned to normal, but the investigations could take some time.
Well, Helen joins us from Stanley now. And Helen, we've just seen in your report there that this incident caused a lot of disruption earlier. What's the latest where you are tonight?
Well, yes, as you can see here, all the chaos that was here has now died down. The lorries that were lining this street have gone off to make their deliveries. And over here on Stanley Bypass, which is the main road between Leeds and Bradford, as you can probably hear, the traffic is now flowing freely. And even over here behind me in the factory, the workers are expected to return to work tomorrow. Now, quite how they'll do that is another question, since around 12 cars were completely destroyed in the blaze. But as workers were telling me, that in itself is a relatively small price to pay, given that nobody here was injured today.
Helen, still live in Stanley, thank you.
A Yorkshire market town is at the centre of a huge political storm which some believe could derail the government and the Prime Minister.
There'll be a by-election in Selby and Ainsty after the MP Nigel Adams resigned suddenly, hot on the heels of his political ally Boris Johnson.
That makes it 3 by-elections in Tory seats. Nervous times for the government. Our political correspondent Katie Oscroft has been in Selby gauging the mood.
When Rajinder started his market store business, James Callaghan was the Labour Prime Minister, and there have been 9 more since then. He believes he's run a better business than recent regimes have run the country, and he's not impressed with the current round of resignations.
The country's in a state, in it, right state at the moment. Don't matter who's in power, whatever. They don't seem to be bucking down and getting on with the job that they've been told to get, what we've been given to do.
Justin says it's time for politicians to nail their colours to the mast by being honest.
How do the ordinary people, everyday people, expect to trust MPs and stuff like that if they're getting, resigning?
Developers often state that land under and around solar panels as well.
Once debating solar panels in the Commons, Nigel Adams resigned in the sunshine straight after Boris Johnson quit. The former Prime Minister's ally had been in line for a peerage but was taken off the list, probably to avoid a by-election. Nigel Adams has since said he will do his utmost to help his party win a general election and remains committed to the Conservatives. But one Tory councillor in his area has quit the party, although he's sympathetic to Nigel Adams.
You've got to take a stand, and Nigel's taken the stand he has, and I can't fault him for that. But he must have good reason. Nobody stands down as an MP without a really good, strong reason.
But back in Selby, there were no bouquets for the now former MP, who leaves his safe constituency seat with a by-election soon and possibly a general election not too far behind. Even voters like Sarah, whose business relies on all things sweet, didn't sugarcoat their opinions of the political goings-on.
To be honest with you, I'm politically homeless at the minute because this is what happens when you only have 2 main parties and both of them are acting like they are.
I just think it's a total shambles, quite honestly. And I don't waste my time voting for MD.
This is what you need to give them, one for each leader.
And whether or not politicians spit their dummies out, Sarah will now be doing business on Selby Market in the run-up to a by-election.
Very good. Well, Katie joins us from Selby now. And Katie, what happens now?
Well, Ian, we know that there will be a by-election, whether Sarah and everyone else likes it or not. The question, of course, is when. Now, formal notice will be served in Parliament, and given that Rishi Sunak probably wants this to happen sooner rather than later, that could be any day now, and it will then take place 3 weeks or slightly longer after that. Now, given that the Tories are now defending 3 by-elections, they've already sent out their big guns to put on a brave face.
I think we've got very strong candidates in place. We've got a strong candidate in Selby. We'll have candidates shortly in Mid-Bedfordshire and Uxbridge. So yes, I'll be out there campaigning, and I think that the government has a good story to tell. So I hope that we will secure the confidence of people. But obviously we need to work hard.
So that's Michael Gove. But Katie, just tell us, why did Nigel Adams decide to go now?
Well, listen carefully, Ian. He was close to Boris Johnson, who had promised him an a seat in the House of Lords in his resignation honours list. That was vetoed. It didn't happen. Then Boris Johnson dramatically resigned as an MP, and the over Partygate and the loyal Nigel Adams almost immediately quit himself. Make of that what you will. He hasn't fully explained himself yet, and we always knew he was going to stand down at the next election. Going now has caused chaos in Westminster, but it's also made a few people here in Selby hot under the collar, and not just because of the weather.
I'm sure it has. Thanks very much. Katie Oscroft reporting live from Selby in the Selby sunshine.
Now, today has seen the meeting of 2 great institutions in North Yorkshire.
Yes, the King arrived into Pickering with the royal carriage being pulled by the now 100-year-old Flying Scotsman.
A milestone anniversary in itself, but it also coincided with the half-century celebrations for the town's own famous steam railway, and Michael Billington was there.
A flying visit to the North York Moors, off to a flying start, courtesy of an elder statesman of steam locomotives. The royal train pulled into Pickering Station by the 100-year-old Flying Scotsman to celebrate its centenary and the 50th anniversary of the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. And despite his royal passenger, it was just another day in the office for the man on the footplate.
What's going on behind, it doesn't matter if it's a load of cattle, fish, passengers or whatever, that's somebody else's problem. It's me to look after the train, get it there to its destination safely. Yes.
When it's the king, though, do you maybe feel slightly more nervous than normal?
No, he's the same as me.
Under the summer sun, thousands had gathered to try and catch a glimpse, or perhaps even a moment with the monarch.
He asked me about my arm, and I was really like shocked that he was actually in person.
It was a bit of a dream, isn't
yeah.
it? You shook his hand, didn't you? And he just said he's never going to wash his hand again. So I think
What
it's
a
quite
joke.
chuffed, really.
To shake my hand and to speak to
Yeah, I was
us
gonna say
and
that.
to speak to us. What a result.
We've come in and I had a cottage and the guy says the King's coming this morning. No kidding. So we should have left now, but we still got his bags in cottage.
That was amazing. Once in a lifetime, yeah.
Unfortunately, my little girl thought we were coming to see the Lion King, so I don't think she was as impressed.
His Majesty then took a diversion to the chocolate shop, giving the girls behind the counter the sweetest of excuses for a day out of the classroom.
Meant to be at school. Well, you can always blame me for doing it. It's the usual problem.
Yeah, he said just blame him and that. He shook my hand. Quite happy about that.
The King's final stop was St Peter and St Paul's Church, where medieval wall paintings were uncovered in the 1850s, adding his name to a roll call of royal visitors.
He signed our visitor's book, so we now have a lovely, great signature for him, to go with the one of his great-grandmother that came in 1937.
The bells here rang out across the town to mark today's royal visit, the ringers even taking requests to round up His Majesty's latest trip to Yorkshire.
So what are you going to ring when I go?
What do you want?
I'm not sure. I'll leave it to you.
Michael Billington, ITV News in Pickering.
Certainly picked a good day for it weather-wise.
He certainly did.
Thanks for joining us for Monday's calendar, and still to come, the baton that's set to come through our region on its way from Ben Nevis to Big Ben.
And some of us have had some thunder and lightning over the last few days, with some of us missing it entirely. Find out what the rest of the week has in store a little later on.
There are calls for greater investment in former coalfield communities in a new report being delivered to government today. A cross-party inquiry has found former pit towns need better transport and job opportunities. The government says it's committed to levelling up, but Charlotte Williams, who runs a childcare centre in Thurnscoe, says people in the area are struggling.
I don't think we've ever seen such low health in this community. Parents are coming to us, they're coming for childcare, and then anecdotally they'll talk about their own mental health, their anxiety. Living in poverty every single day drains you. It drains every emotional bit that you've got in your brain, and it's hard to pick yourself up.
Now, as temperatures continue to soar, a runner from North Yorkshire is joining a countrywide challenge to highlight just how tough climate change could make life for future generations.
Yes, Johnny Parsons, who's from Tadcaster, will be one of those carrying a baton from Ben Nevis to Big Ben, passing through our region in a few days' time as part of the Running Out of Time relay. Nick Smith has been at the start of their journey.
Scaling Britain's highest peak is no mean feat, but for this group, the 8-hour trek is just the start of a mammoth journey. Running Out of Time is a project led by members of a generation which are worried as they age, the planet they call home will feel less and less hospitable.
What is your message to politicians? What would you want them to see from your efforts here?
We're looking for everyone to work together, essentially. So we're calling on national government to local government, individuals to communities, schools to businesses to come together to protect the natural world around us for now and for future generations.
I'm just really passionate about the environment, and I think there's a lot of sort of doom and gloom about it, but this is like a really inspiring movement. I think that's really important at this kind of time.
We're beginning to see the impact of climate change and biodiversity loss here in Scotland, across the UK and obviously around the world. We do have lots of climate solutions, we just need to put it into action. And so doing stuff like this is fun, but it is about that hopeful message that we can solve these problems and we can take action.
Last summer saw record temperatures across the country, and with the onset of climate change, scientists estimate that makes it 160 times more likely to happen again in the future. And here in the Highlands, where ice patches used to remain all year, well, as summer approaches, they now all but vanish. As the team reach the summit, a few patches are still clinging on, but they fear in years to come, when they repeat this trek, the ice won't be here at all. Thousands who share their concerns are set to join them as they make their way south. The route starts at Ben Nevis with 366 stages to complete as it makes its way through Scotland and over the border, passing through York and Leeds before heading over the Pennines to the northwest. It's more than 2,600 kilometres long, finishing up at Big Ben in Westminster. Johnny Parsons from Tadcaster will be running 13k of the route between Codmanthorpe and Aberford near Leeds, saying he didn't just want to be a spectator to a potentially troubling future for the planet.
Basically, I just don't want to sit back and watch the world burn. Not for myself, but for future generations, really. We can't rely on the powers that be, but little actions combined have massive impact. So this event for me, if it makes one person think a bit more about actions, then it's been a success.
Well, the government says it remains on track with its net zero strategy to decarbonise all sectors of the economy by 2050. But those taking part in this relay want an even quicker acceleration of commitments to drop our reliance on fossil fuels. And when they reach Big Ben in a month's time, to pass their baton on to the lawmakers, they hope they'll be listening. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Well, the ITV Evening News is coming up with more on those Conservative by-elections we were talking about just a while ago. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up, Tory turmoil as Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson lock horns in a row over the honours list. Johnson has accused the Prime Minister of talking rubbish after Sunak said his former ally asked me to do something I wasn't prepared to do. Political divisions in Scotland too. Pressure on the First Minister to suspend Nicola Sturgeon following her arrest. Reforms to school inspections in England in response to one family's campaign. Do join me for that and more at 6:30.
We will. Thanks, Mary. Now, the way children are coached in sport is being changed under a big shake-up from UK Coaching and Sport England after research found that more than half of children don't get enough exercise.
Yes, it's called Child First Coaching and it's being rolled out across the country as part of a new campaign to help more children enjoy sport. Catherine Walker has more.
Exercising when you're young means you're more likely to keep active as an adult. And in Doncaster, football coach Connor says the rewards are far-reaching.
To keep them nice and fit and healthy in schools that we go to, a lot of the PE isn't fitness-based activities, it's motor skills and functional skills, so it's nice to add in an element of fitness just to keep them nice and healthy.
But despite the many benefits, research from Sport England shows that 53% of children don't get enough exercise. Of those that do stay active, less than half say they enjoy taking part in sport.
Well, the Active Lives research really shone through that fun and enjoyment was the main motivator for getting them involved and wanting to stay involved in sport and physical activity, and the absence of fun as being actually the thing that puts them off and maybe leads to dropout.
Hoping to tackle this problem, Sport England are rolling out a new style of coaching, giving children a voice and a choice in the content of training sessions.
I think there has to be a little bit of structure, but within that structure, they can solve a problem however they want, and the more ideas that they come up with, the better it is as a coach, because one, they're thinking, they're solving a problem on their own, and they're obviously having fun because they're engaged.
Elite rugby player Eva says having this input helped her thrive in different sports at school.
So I used to swim when I was younger, and I had a really good coach that really let me sort of choose and give me the choice in swimming in school, and that enabled me to balance them quite nicely. You were a lot more motivated to perform well in competitions because you're doing something you enjoy.
It's hoped this focus on fun will help more children have a positive attitude towards sport, like these footballers in Doncaster.
I like coming here to see all my friends and play with all my friends. Well, I think that exercising is fun because you get to go out and about and you get to see lots of different things.
What do you like about coming here?
Doing big kicks.
The Child First campaign will now work with coaches across England, hoping to get more children enjoying exercise and building healthy habits for life. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Now, the opening of a new sensory garden in Batley for children with special educational needs was heralded with an operatic flourish today, courtesy of celebrity tenor Russell Watson. Russell accompanied the Honley Male Voice Choir in a rendition of the classic You'll Never Walk Alone, watched by children from Fairfield School. An amazing £50,000 was being raised to transform the playground for them.
These types of places and this type of environment and what they've done here gives a great kind of fabric of support for the kids. And I just think it's a wonderful thing what's been done here today. To see the happy faces and the positivity that's come out of it is a great thing.
Now, finally, for flying enthusiasts, the sights and sounds of wartime aircraft like the Spitfire are the pinnacle of engineering. So imagine seeing 16 of them circling over West Yorkshire in just one day. That's exactly what those heading to the former RAF Church Fenton airfield next month can expect.
Yeah, they're among around 50 heritage aircraft taken to the skies for the first new air show to come to the north of England in decades. Jonathan Brown's been given a special preview.
They are wartime greats that made their names as Allied firepower in the Second World War. But now they're bringing the heat to West Yorkshire. Today, the celebrated airmen and women that have graced these cockpits were joined by an absolute amateur.
Ready to go?
Perfect.
Well, here I am in a Spitfire. Those aren't words I ever thought I'd say. Not just that, but this isn't any ordinary Spitfire if one exists. Because I got told just before I got in here that this very plane shot down a German aircraft on D-Day. So this is living history.
From the roar of takeoff to the rudimentary controls and dials, it's quite hard to avoid getting caught up in its incredible story. And soon these aircraft and up to 50 other historic warbirds will be on display at one of Yorkshire's aviation hubs.
It's not often these days that we get a chance to see the men who guard our skies relaxing for a few moments.
For more than 75 years, RAF Church Fenton near Tadcaster was home to RAF pilots and those that trained them. In this film, shot in 1957, they flew Gloucester Meteors, the only Allied jet fighters to see service in the Second World War. The base closed in 2013 and was sold off to become Leeds East Airport, though soon its military history will be relived as the Flying Legends Air Show touches down in Yorkshire for the first time on July the 15th and 16th.
Flying Legends is celebrating all those legendary things, and it be the pilots, the ground crews, the people who went before us that gave us our wonderful liberty. And of course bringing back these fantastic aircraft to, in some cases, their home.
The fact is, when you come to Church Fenton, you won't see just one Spitfire, up to 16 aircraft, and the sight and sound of 16 Spitfires flying overhead is something you'll never forget.
Back in the sky, the twists and turns kept coming. This a taste of things to come as vintage aerobatics displays are set to bring expressions like this from up to 33,000 spectators over 2 days. But after conquering the dizzying dives and bidding farewell to the stunning vistas over Yorkshire, returning to solid ground was welcome, though people here say the real theatre in the sky is yet to come. Jonathan Brown, ITV News, Church Fenton.
You look remarkably well.
Good jobs, doesn't he, Johnny Brown? Rather him than me, though, I think.
Yes, he managed to keep his breakfast down, which was very important.
Here's Joe.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thank you. Very good evening to you. Another hot day today, and over the next few days, hopefully beginning to feel a little fresher for our part of the world. Quite a few thundery downpours beginning to move in over the next hour or two. One or two of these slow moving if you catch one, but lots of dry weather as we head into tonight. And from tomorrow, for most of us, the next few days will be completely dry. Warm spells of sunshine exist through the rest of this week, but it isn't going to feel quite as hot. High pressure continues to dominate the UK's weather, but as we go through the week, we're introducing just a slightly fresher easterly airflow once more, which will just clip those temperatures back at the coast in particular, but also inland over the next few days. However, it remains fine, with no real rain in the forecast till the weekend. Back to this evening, a few showers rumbling through, and then largely things becoming dry tonight with long clear spells. A little bit of a breeze perhaps picking up in the early hours of tomorrow morning, but really quiet conditions and uncomfortable for sleeping. Much like last night, our towns and cities probably not falling much below around 16 degrees. On to tomorrow, a very warm start to the day, it goes without saying, and that sun will be off at 4:35, setting at 9:37 tomorrow evening. Blue skies, lots of sunshine. In fact, UV levels will be very high tomorrow across the board. Slightly fresher along North Sea coast from the word go, and into the afternoon, not feeling as stifling there. But inland, temperatures will soar once more to around 27 degrees during tomorrow afternoon. Very strong sunshine and dry conditions across the board. Looking ahead, it stays fine through the rest of this week. Nights will still be rather warm, hopefully not too uncomfortable, and by day 24 or 25 degrees with plenty of sunshine on offer.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Grass and weed pollen levels are very high at this time of year, and it's exasperating news for hay fever sufferers. The rest of this week, it continues to be very high across the region. Take care.
Thank you very much, Joe. It's definitely staying hot, hot, hot. Flaming June. I think we're well and truly in it.
And you've got to have sympathy for those hay fever sufferers with
Yeah.
those very high predictions
Yeah,
there.
you do have my sympathy.
Pretty awful. Well, that's all for now. From Lisa and myself and the whole of the calendar team, thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow at 6. Good night.
Bye-bye.